This is day 2 of the June 93 10-day retreat in Springwater. Most of the talks are based on what people bring up in meetings, group and individual. Sometimes I make notes of it, sometimes not. Never are the notes the verbatim statement or question of what a person brought up. I'm not capable of that kind of memory. And also, since several people usually ask the same question in the course of a day or 2 or 3, the questions merge into a new one. If ever you need to bring something up in a private meeting that you do not wish in any way to come up in the talk, then please let me know, and it won't. At first, since it has come up several times already, let me say something about crying. A number of people have mentioned a tremendous yearning or need to cry at times, often not knowing the reason or motive, just the pressure on the chest or the eyes overflowing, maybe with sadness, sorrow, pain, whatever. And then usually the remark follows, I don't think I can do that here in this room. I would bother other people. And what I say in this case is, I've never ever heard of anyone complaining about someone crying in this room. On the contrary, often people have said it here. It feels good to hear somebody cry. I would like to join in. Sometimes people have a little stack of Kleenex in front of them. I say, no, it's going to flow over. So even though we talk about slamming doors and walking noisily, there is no warning not to cry in this room. You may not wish to cry where other people are, and there are lots of empty spaces, wooded and open, high and low on this land, where one can find a spot to cry and sob. And be aware at the same time. Is that possible? To be aware, of course, if there hadn't been this awareness, you wouldn't have reported it. But one may find, as the crying proceeds and whatever relief it brings, or however it feels, one may not want to be aware of it, may not want to look and listen at the same time. There's nothing bad about it, right or wrong. But it is possible to also be aware and see what happens. One person stated that even though I have meditated, sat for 10 years now. I'm very discouraged to find the abundance and power of discursive thought. One would think that after 10 years there would be less of it. That there isn't, that it seems to flow and gush like I remember it 10 years ago, makes me feel discouraged. One may have heard in one's spiritual training or read in books on meditation, the different traditions, that the goal of the meditator or the goal in meditation is an empty mind. A mind emptying itself of discursive thought. Maybe one has heard or read that not until the mind is empty of discursive thought is there a possibility of insight, seeing clearly, being enlightened. And so the goal is set up to empty this mind, to control thought, to suppress it, or be rid of it in some manner or other. Because it's felt to be a great nuisance, a hindrance. What keeps me from the blessed land of equanimity or openness, wholeness, enlightenment. Even though I do use the words of wholeness and non-division, emptiness, I don't mean to set this up as a goal to be attained, to be worked for, and to find ways and means to get there, practices. This is what I've been asked already a few times, is what would be a good practice to empty the mind, to be free of this constant thought. What I'm interested in, and a lot of people with me, is to find out more about this discursive thought, discursive imagery, memory, anticipation of what we call the future. To become aware and intimate and intelligently cognizant of what is going on in this mind. Not just my mind, but the human mind. Because this mind here is not unique in these processes of remembering and anticipating, fearing, desiring, hating, loving, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain or punishment, wanting affirmation, feeling lonely, feeling separate and isolated. This is the human lot. This is how we live because of the potential and capacity and functioning of the brain affecting this whole organism and vice versa, the organism affecting the brain to produce more thought about its condition and thought producing conditions in the body. This is universally true of human beings. How could it be otherwise? We're all evolved from the same mass of inheritance and programming and evolution. Manifesting newly in each newborn baby, maybe already before it was newborn. So, what I feel very passionately about is to begin to understand, come upon what is happening in this mind and body from one moment to the next, to see how it functions, to become intelligently aware of it. And with such intelligent awareness, often also comes compassion all on its own. People have mentioned, I'm not compassionate, I should be more compassionate, or I would like to be, but I'm not. How can I? There are practices, is it all right to pursue those? And the amazing and miraculous thing is that love, compassion, and intelligence, which we seek after, are there to be come upon. And we're interested in how are we functioning? And in discovering how I function, I discover how you and everyone else also functions. Not precisely in the same way, particularly what regards content of thoughts, content of background or conditioning. That varies from one individual to the next, from one group to the next, one culture to the next, from one eon to the next. But the basic processes are the same. And in discovering them, shedding light on them, the mind shedding light on itself, let's provisionally say that, because I'm not doing it, it happens. In that light is shed on everyone. Understanding for oneself in a deep sense, in a deep way, brings understanding for our neighbor, the person we live with or the person we don't want to live with. We begin to understand each other deeper, and with that comes a compassionate understanding how little or not at all we are in control of what we're doing, and therefore not blameworthy in the conventional sense, to be condemned or to be praised and worshipped. All of that is more contribution of thinking and past thought. So the stronghold of judging and condemning and fault-finding can give way to understanding in a compassionate and intelligent way if we begin to have insight in what goes on in this mind-body and body-mind. It's the same thing. So, why would I assign someone a practice to come back to the breathing? Somebody mentioned that. Is there something to bring myself back to the here and now? Can you recommend something? I can say, I can't recommend anything, but can say a lot about it. First of all, what has already happened is the here. Now, attention has come on its own, spontaneously. We wake up to the fact that we've been dreaming. Be it in the morning, waking up from sleep, in the middle of the night, or right now, sitting, walking, eating, suddenly waking up to the fact that there has been dreaming going on, and sometimes very realistic dreaming. One may even gesture with one's hands or with one's facial muscles, participating in that imagined occurrence. And there is a waking up to it. It happens. Not because we have a practice, because I don't know why. Every once in a while we come to, we sober up spontaneously. But we don't notice it and we don't acknowledge it. Because the instant we wake up to discursive thought or dreaming, then we think, why do I do that? I shouldn't be doing that. I've been 10 years trying not to do this, and I still do it. How discouraging. And the thoughts keep running and keep affecting the body in a depressive way in this case. Discouragement means energy draining through these thoughts. I'm no good. I'm not a success. Other people probably are. All of this opens up for leaking out of energy, or revolving in these thoughts over and over again. And the instant in which awareness shed light on the fact that discursive thought was taking place is totally lost. It's such a precious moment. Waking up. And the thought, what can I come back to? Where's my breath? I should have been following it for the last hour. Why didn't I? And the marvelous thing is that breathing happens whether we follow it or not. It's there. Sometimes as imperceptible as the spring breeze. Sometimes noisy like a storm. It's there. Simple, unadorned, unnecessary to make it into anything more than what it is. We don't even know what it is. We don't even listen to it because we think we should practice it. What is breathing at a moment of waking up from a dream? What is the sound of? Hear it. I don't want to name it. My words can never cover it. Some people do it better than others. But what is heard and taking place this moment inside and out cannot be captured in words or practice or knowledge, and yet it's happening. Can one hear the breathing and also the wind and the peeping and chirping? And also feel the hands wherever they are, the legs, the bottom. Maybe a pain somewhere. It's there, isn't it? It doesn't have to be made into anything. If I get a glimpse of the fact that all of what is going on this instant cannot possibly be known this instant. I can give it words, but that takes time, and time away from listening. If I realize just a glimpse that it cannot be known completely, then maybe the knowing it, the interpreting it, the labeling it will lose a little bit of its grip. It's seen for its tentativeness, its usefulness, we're talking in words, and yet its total insufficiency. And by realizing that, glimpse by glimpse, it loses some of its powerful grip. The words, the interpretations, the storyline, the constant labeling. None of this is being condemned. It's happening. This brain has been trained and educated in this way, not just in this life, but it has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. And we sitting here are the effect, the result of all of that. And then we have the presumptuousness of blaming ourselves for it. Assuming that there's some entity inside that is responsible for it, or could have control over it, or could do away with it, if it was only good enough or arduous enough, obedient enough, or whatever all thought creates and has created over thousands of years. Ideas of how we human beings should be or could be or ought to be. And that is wired and programmed and taped into our whole organism, in every tissue and cell of this body. How we should be and how we shouldn't be, how we ought to be. Comparing ourselves to these ideal standards and usually coming out on the short end, or maybe sometimes on the long end, feeling better than what other people are like, or having surpassed all standards. All kinds of ideas can be spawned and have been spawned in this brain and body, with powerful effect on this brain and body. We're just talking, I don't know whether it was this morning or yesterday. What if one would not compare oneself for a moment, or for a minute, for a day? Because without comparison, we'd be lost to know what we are. Of course, we still have all the stories that we were told how we are, and that we've made up ourselves how we are and how we should be. And see, this is the interesting and explosively interesting thing to find out about these stories and how they affect our reactions, our moods, our interrelationship with each other. They do, and we don't see it, we don't notice it, and yet the brain keeps churning them out. Stories of how I are and how I ought to be. How good or poor I am, how bad or better than others, worse than others. How pitiable I am, or how pitiable the others are. Listen to it, tune into it. It's all there, going on in this mind and body. I say mind and body because the story spun out is inseparable from the mood experienced in the body. The depression or the elation, the joy. Now let's use the word joy for something else. The pleasure or the pain, discouragement or encouragement, all responding to stories, headlines that go on in this mind, and responded to by this miraculously sensitive body. And then if the story or the thought that produced the mood has been forgotten, or one has not been aware of it, then this body mooding in a certain way, in an angry or sad or sulking way, sends messages again to the brain, which says something is wrong, something is dangerous, something is bad, or somebody out there is bad doing this to you. It's just amazing to watch the interaction and interrelationship of thought and organism. Both ways, not just from thought to organism, but from organism, from feeling pained or angry or afraid, back to thought. Something must be wrong. Somebody must be threatening me, angry at me. Therefore, I must have done something wrong. That may be one response to it. We all react slightly differently to situations. Maybe aggressively, maybe by withdrawing, but we react. in conditioned ways to thought and imagined thought in others. So, to the question, what can I bring my mind back to when there is a moment of attention? The response is there is no going back. There's no back. Because it may be a manner of speaking, but it is a misleading manner of speaking, as though we could go back to anything. We can't. This moment hasn't been there before. It's new, it's fresh, it's unused. It's not the breath of 10 minutes ago when I followed it and then fell into fantasy. I'm not going back to anything. It's rather, what's here now? Although we can say that the thought, I'm good or I'm bad, I'm successful or a failure, that can remain the same for a whole lifetime. The body changes, the wind and the seasons change, but the thought, I'm this way, I'm that way, the world is that way, people are though in a certain way, that can remain there, fixed, and keep affecting this changing body in fixed ways, nourishing the assumption that nothing changes. But what hasn't changed is thought, the way of thinking, and opinionating, and image-making. And here we're asking, can light be shed on this thinking and image-making and opinionating, illumining it with awareness? Not to judge it or condemn it or get rid of it, but to learn from it in an intelligent way, which means non-condemningly and non-acceptingly. Nothing is said here, you must begin to accept your thoughts or your process. Who is there to accept it? They're just ongoing processes. And this amazing capacity for insight into it. Seeing something suddenly, at a glimpse, at a glance. Maybe it won't last, won't endure, doesn't matter. But at that moment of insight into a thought, an image made, the effect of an image on the body or on the relationship with a person of whom I have a strong image, I see that. There's a seeing of that. No matter how brief the glimpse, at that moment it's clear that it's an image, and what this person really is or what I really am is a big question mark, not an image, not a habitual pattern of thinking about ourselves or each other. And with this glimpsing, insightful glimpsing, sometimes it lasts longer than a moment. But with that, the hardness and darkness and rigidity of this framework of thinking about ourselves, this framework program, cracks a little bit, becomes perforated with spots of light. It doesn't retain its absolute power. We rebel against dictatorships and political unfreedom, but the most powerful tyrant is this rigid system of thinking and imaging and prejudicing, assuming things about ourselves and each other, which has been with us for thousands of years, slightly changing in concept, but not the structure. It's rigid, dark, compelling, powerful, and not enlightening. It's endarkening. So, at one moment waking up to the dream of what I should be, or what somebody else is, or what I would love to do or did that was so pleasurable, or what may happen that is so frightening, waking up from that dream for a moment. There's the plane, the breath, a quiet bird song, stomach gurgling, pulsating, whatever it is throughout the body, heartbeat, wind, breath, out breath, in breath, I don't even know. We can name it, but the name is not the breath. What is it? What is the wind? What is this sitting here? The voice, the talking, the sensations, what is it all? And the marvelous thing, in contrast to school, where you have to know everything, here you don't have to know it. What a relief, this glimpse into an instant of not knowing what something is. With that it becomes alive and flexible and soft. And like we said of the cloud, changing but yet not changing. What's not changing for the moment of seeing, hearing, listening, touching openly is that doesn't change things. That doesn't change. Everything takes place in that space. The space of openness. I don't want to be rigid with words. Somebody already told me you use the word wholeness too much. Then it becomes sort of tacky or jaded. Unfortunately, I don't have too many words. So, this openness, I use that a lot too. What can you do? You know what you can do? What we can do? Be there. And that doesn't change. In that everything takes place as it is. This moment, the wind, the heart, the breath, the air, the sun, the warmth, sensations throughout the body. Boom. Bird song. If a thought crops up, I can't get it. The others are probably getting it. I'm a failure. Then that state is not there. But one can wake up to the fact that this has just happened. The thought, I can't do it, the other can. I'm a failure. When will I ever get there? Then thought is operating with its skeleton structure. And we can wake up to that. Not try to get rid of it. Waking up is enough. Why fight the structure? Just listen here now. That has no structure. There may be a backache, there may be a headache. What is it? It's there, together with millions and billions of unknowable events in a vastness that contains everything, changing. Actually, even the statement that something is changing, like the cloud or the sound of the wind, the breath, needs some reference stuff from memory. Because a compare or comparison takes place between the cloud as it was remembered and as it is seen now. But experiment with it someday, just watching a cloud, watching memory come in, but then watching again, seeing memory come in and watching again and watching. And maybe there will be a moment or moments where there's no memory. So that's just what is. And then when memory comes back, it says, oh, the cloud has changed. But this moment of witness, everything is as it is. No need for comparison. Comparing myself, comparing others, comparing things. We're not talking about this work of looking and listening and wondering meditatively. In putting a floor on the kitchen, there was a lot of comparison and comparing and imagining going on. Comparing this blue with that blue, or this green with an imagined blue, and so forth. But here, this moment, what do we need to compare with what? What can become clear is comparison and what it does, how it divides things up, how it creates discouragement or encouragement. Which is just what it is, which is just what happens, that's all. Have I now set up a goal that one should look at thought, look at image making, at comparison? Has this become now a thing that I have to do? Which brings with it struggle and success or failure, discouragement if I can't do it. No, we just talked. We were working together for a moment. If at a moment of sitting alone without someone talking, or outside of a group meeting or individual meeting, if there's sitting and nothing comes to mind, no thought comes up, or thought comes and goes, but not a question about it, not wondering about it, and that's what's going on. Sometimes someone will say, I get tired of hearing you talk about questioning everything. I want to just sit quietly, listen to the wind and the birds. That's fine. maybe what is talked about here and gone into, will surface at a completely unexpected time, at a time of needing or wanting to look at it. Can we sit without forcing ourselves into anything, and yet feel the compulsion to force something in ourselves or others? Just listening to that forcing impulse as to the twittering of birds. Awake enough not to go with it completely, but feel its effects. Getting the body somewhat revved up to force attention, to force thoughts away. Just becoming aware of a broader whole in a benign way, not attacking it, condemning it, accepting it, just listening to it, being aware of it, a gentle way. We think we are doers, and we have been raised to be doers very early, being told, do something with your time. Don't just play. So we're all compulsive doers and at the same time burnt out doers. What would not doing be like? Or is that too much of a leap? Does it first happen to watch the doing in a broader space? Mostly the idea of doing what I should be doing. After I've done what I'm not with, I'm thinking of what I should be doing afterwards. Can there be a non-doing listening to all the doings? Listening means touching, feeling, sensing, seeing, smelling, tasting, the whole thing. And then some more. Or some less. We will end here for today.